want to bring in a member of the House Intelligence Committee. You just saw him, New York Congressman Peter King. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you.
Characterize the situation as you know it.
First of all, what Devin Nunes was saying, and I support him 100% on this, is that this was legitimate surveillance being carried out involving conversations between foreigners. In the course of those conversations, details would come up about people in the Trump transition, about conversations these people had, either with Donald Trump himself or people close to him or people in the transition. Under the law, whenever that information comes up, it has to be what's called masked. It has to be blacked out. Instead, what happened was this information, as far as we can tell right now, was unmasked, it was made known, and it was disseminated throughout the intelligence community. There was no intelligence value to this information at all. All this was personal details, where meetings were going to be held, who was going to be going where, who was talking with whom. There was absolutely no reason at all, and it's illegal for that to be unmasked and spread throughout the intelligence community, including the White House. So that's why the surveillance I was talking about is to have this type of information disseminated is really nothing else but surveillance, and there's no legitimate purpose because it's not being done for intelligence purposes, and there's nothing criminal there. This was strictly personal type information that was being used and abused.
Congressman, I don't understand. You have to connect the dots for us here. I don't understand why, as soon as the president said that, he used the word wiretapping. Now we're using the word surveillance. How come so many intelligence people came out and said, no evidence of it? We just don't have the evidence of it. Not at all. If this is obvious and Chairman Nunes has the goods on this, how come nobody else knew it? And how come they were so adamant about this is not true?
Well, what happened was the president did overshoot the mark on this. He should not have said that President Obama ordered him to be wiretapped. He was not wiretapped. And what happened was that there was an abuse of, there was information legally obtained which was then abused. And that, to me, is very significant. It doesn't mean that President Obama ordered him to be wiretapped, but it does mean that people in the administration or the intelligence community allowed this information to be made known to others in the White House and in the intelligence community, which is illegal and wrong. Devin Nunes just found out about it very recently. If you recall, at the hearing on Monday, he said, if anyone has information, come forward. And my understanding is that's when Chairman Nunes found out about it.
See, I feel like that is dishonest, Steve Rogers. I mean, there was such pushback to the president's, tweet about wiretapping. Okay, so it's not wiretapping, it's surveillance. But the fact that so many in the intelligence community came out and poo-pooed it, that's dishonest.
Which brings us to this point. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning.
Should not part of this investigation include who gave the order, who actually allowed this information to go out without masking? Because you know and I know that names of U.S. citizens, corporations, etc., have to be protected. So what about that? What about focusing in on who gave the order?
No, that's exactly what Chairman Nunes is saying has to be investigated. Who gave the order, why it was given, was there any pressure brought, and exactly to whom was this disseminated? And that, to me, is a real issue because this is supposed to be so highly secretive. And you're right, if an American citizen's name appears anywhere on one of these wiretaps, the wiretap itself is legal, but if your name appears on it, if you're an American citizen, it has to be masked, it has to be blacked out. No one is ever supposed to know about it unless it involves something important to foreign intelligence. From what we can see, this had nothing to do with foreign intelligence. It was just monitoring day-to-day activities of people in the Trump team and the president-elect himself.
Congressman, two questions. One, with respect to the president's tweet this morning, it's probably in reference to what Representative Schiff said, that he's seen more than circumstantial evidence of collusion between Russia and associates of Trump. So one, how would you respond to that? And then secondly, how would you respond to Senator McCain saying that he thinks there is a need for an independent select committee and it should be taken out of the House?
Well, I would just rely on what General Clapper, who was the Director of National Intelligence under President Obama, he was on 2 weeks ago. He said so far there was absolutely no evidence of any collusion whatsoever. Also, you had Mike Morell, who was the acting CIA director under President Obama, and he was saying that there's no fire, there's no, not even a campfire, there's not even a spark of a fire as far as where this investigation is going. So listen, if the FBI finds something, fine. But right now the FBI has been investigating this for more than 8 months. Let them continue their investigation.
But as far that's right. Congressman, no disrespect, you mentioned those two, but you had 2 days ago Comey and the NSA director say there was no wiretap or surveillance of Trump Tower. But then just now you talk about there possibly was surveillance because of what Nunes said, even though we haven't seen anything. So you take one side and not the other. How do you square that circle?
No, I'm not taking one side, not the other. I'm saying that as far as Russia, that's being investigated by the FBI. As far as President Trump, specifically what Comey said was accurate, and maybe he was not aware of this. I don't know. This was we have to find exactly how this was done. And I'm not saying there was surveillance audit of President-elect Trump. What happened was the effect of it was, though, as all this information was being released, it certainly, to me, was surveillance. Who ordered it? Where did it come from?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's no evidence from President Obama, no.
The left really has to be careful on this, Robert,
Right.
because I understand that, the Democrats really want this to be true, that there's some collusion between Donald Trump and the Russians.
Robert,
and there's just no evidence of it. It's just not true.
And Robert, the congressman hit the nail on the head. The former director of intelligence stated there's no Russian connection.
Yeah.
They're pushing a narrative that's
They're desperate to push this narrative.
I was just asking the same question, that's all.
I want to